Learn how to get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Join our Patreon page now. Link in the description. It's showtime! I always like to do that and say this because it's the word on my screen. So yay! Hi everyone! Welcome to another episode of the Puppet Podcast. So today we go into USA and I'm really happy to get this guest who know a lot of stuff because she's part of the Center of Puppetry Art in Atlanta. And yeah, so just before I bring her in the screen, I just want to do my little commercial because, you know, we build this podcast and it's growing and it's really amazing. And during the time arrive, I will just drop into the screen this Patreon. So yeah, it's really, we are really happy to have this, and we have like workshop online. And also those little things you see, it's some tips to help puppeteer to grow online and share their work. So yeah, we have this weekend a workshop right there with Danny Joe Labrec, who do the children web series, and it will be really awesome to just have his experience, but more deeply into the details of it. So yeah, I really want everyone to tune for this. And just be aware because we also have those tips that Eli, my boyfriend, do about marketing to help also with Facebook ads or whatever are the question. So he will give you some tips to help with online promotion as it's part of the new era. But yeah, we want to be focused for the future for good news. So that's why I continue to invite wonderful guests, and it's always a good moment of exchange. So let's bring her into the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Kristin Haverty.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much to be part of the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I always ask, because you are a producer, you are really involved into also the politics of puppetry, like with UNIMA association and all of this international connection, and your job at the Center of Puppetry Arts. So I want you maybe to introduce all your background to the show, if you can, in few minutes.
Yeah, so I'm currently the producer at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, Georgia, as you said. I'm also a board member and counselor for UNIMA USA, and then I also am a current board member of the Jim Henson Foundation. And yeah, that's so. And my job at the Center for Puppetry Arts, I've probably worked in just about every avenue there in terms of puppeteer, designer, teaching artist, museum docent, and then began my journey in producing about 10 years ago. So it's we both at the center, we produce and present work. So since the center began 40 some years ago, we've presented guest artists every year. And that's really been a rich part of our programming. And then also we produce our own work. And that's also very exciting because we have a great core group of puppeteers and a fantastic season that we produce actually all year round. So we rarely have dark days.
Yes, it's a museum for the one, like I never visited. So it's a big museum with a lot of like the Jim Henson stuff, I think, and many multicultural puppets also.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to all of our performances, the center also has this beautiful museum. It's called the Worlds of Puppetry Museum, and it has the Jim Henson Gallery and a global gallery, and also a special exhibit gallery that has different exhibits. We've done exhibits on Indian puppets. We've also had a really fabulous Labyrinth exhibit, Jim Henson's work, and then also dark. Currently, we have a dark crystal exhibit that's in the special exhibit gallery. So it's a beautiful museum. Everyone should come and see it. It's really fabulous. We also have a really vibrant education department that, when we're open, does workshops in conjunction with our performances. And then also right now we're doing digital programming, and the center has actually since 1998, I believe, has had a digital learning program that has gone into every state in the United States and also many countries. And it's now growing even more because we're all digital. So
yes,
it's an exciting time, especially for that department, I think.
Yeah. I can't wait to go there one day when all the border will be free. But yeah, it's amazing to get this kind of like cultural center of puppetry. It's unique in America. So
it is, absolutely.
Bravo.
Well, it took a lot of people and a lot of vision. Our founder, Vince Anthony, had the vision of a center, and worked to create it, but he had partners. Jim Henson actually was a really early supporter of the vision. Nancy Staub as well. She was really the visionary behind our museum, and really helped create a well-rounded and really representative collection. And our artistic director, John Ludwig, has been creating shows since 1978 that have all been, incredible visionary work. So, and of course, all of the performers and presenting artists and everyone who has come and really made the center vibrant is, it's a lot of people that have put a lot of energy into this incredible place. So.
Totally, you are well surrounded with great talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we go into the question of the interview, I want everyone who watching, if you want to just write on the side where you are right now. It's kind of really exciting to see that. And if you have any questions during the interview, feel free to put it there, and I will bring it into the screen. So yeah, first question. Ready?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to pull up my notes. So I remember everything.
Yeah, it's kind of a deep question, but first is, why do you cherish the art of puppetry?
Yes, absolutely. So first I want to say that I cherish good theater in general. I do, but I think what I particularly love about puppetry is its the ability to so completely create a world unique unto itself in any scale. And that you can play with that scale in a way that is much harder to do in traditional actors theater. Yeah. I would say I also love that puppetry can be found in every corner of the globe, and that in each of those traditions you can see sort of in visual form like a distillation of the values and ideas and the culture of that place. So I mean, speaking of the museums, whenever I walk into the Worlds of Puppetry Museum, the Global Gallery particularly, or, when I see a performance that displays a really singular vision of an artist, I'm just reminded about how rich and diverse our world is. And yet, despite that diversity, there's sort of this undeniable thread of the human impulse to bring the inanimate to life. It's like, from very, very early age, we have this impulse and this drive to bring things alive. And I love that. So.
Yay. That's true. And it's funny because it's bring back to childhood. And the second question is, how did your crush for puppetry happen? Maybe it's a specific moment in the childhood sometime or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's sort of a long story, and I came to it gradually, but I will say sort of the period was really during my undergraduate study, and I went to Sarah Lawrence College in New York. And I had studied theater and music in a conservatory style high school program, and was interested in directing, but I really, when I got to my senior year, I realized, you know, if I'm going to say anything about my art, with my art, I need to have a strong base in the humanities. So I went to Sarah Lawrence, and it was a great program in terms of they allow you to design your own program. So I, you know, focused on performance studies and music and film, and through that performance studies focus, I got interested in Bali through ethnomusicology. And so from there, I decided to go to Bali my junior year, and then it was only a semester-long program. So I decided to round out the year with a semester in Prague. And at the time, I had no idea that those were two, like, you know, incredibly rich cultures with really strong puppetry traditions. But so when I went, I studied with the Dalong Iwan Nartha, who let me tag along to his shows and build puppets, and which I loved. And then in Prague, I became obsessed with the filmmaker Jan Schwenkmeyer. And he, I think for me, I really identified with sort of how he created this real cinematic world that took those Czech traditions, but then created this very surrealistic landscape and storytelling model. So I was sort of getting the bug for puppetry at that point, but I didn't really know how that would fit into what I did. And then I went back to Sarah Lawrence and studied with an incredible puppet maker, puppet creator, Dan Herlin, who still teaches at Sarah Lawrence, and it's incredible, and does his own work in New York. And he, you know, introduced us to all these different styles, and he also took us to shows in New York. I saw Janie Geiser for the first time, and William Kentridge's work, and you know, that was incredibly inspiring. And so I took all those, and for my senior project, I created this shadow puppet performance that was also, I played live cello for it and had film elements in it. And at the time, my advisor came up to me afterwards, and she said, you know, I've had no idea what you were doing with your study until tonight, and now I finally get it.
Wow.
and I guess for me, that was the moment where I realized and discovered that a way to combine all my various skills and interests and talents was into something meaningful was through puppetry. So that was when I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm doing.
That's so cool. Like it's a journey, and for sure you have a vision, but it's so interesting that you discover like a shell opening. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I really admire this.
Yeah, it was a gradual process, but I really, you know, I would not turn back. No, it was.
Yeah, and we have Jeff Dunk, who say you are the coolest.
Oh, I know, Jeff. Hi, Jeff. You're the coolest.
That's cool. And then the third question is like about the study. Like, actually, in your opinion, what would be the best field of study to become a puppeteer?
Yeah, this is interesting because I think probably you've experienced every puppeteer that you've talked to has come to puppetry in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think it really depends on who you, how you want to engage in puppetry and what you want to do with puppetry is really what study you need to do. So if you want, I mean, there are so many jobs that you can do related to puppetry. If you want to be a puppeteer that creates their own work and performs it, then that pretty much takes about every skill set you can imagine. You know, you've got to have the concept and writing, you've got to be able to design, construct, perform, or, you know, sometimes you can job certain things out that your skills are not, you know, strong enough for, but, or at least that you don't want to do. But then for performers, I think skills in music and dance and movement, and of course acting are essential. For designers and builders, you know, you really need strong visual art skills. So and I mean, so I think that there's a lot of avenues to get into puppetry, and it really depends on your particular skill set and what you're interested in. And then so that would be my answer. So there's no real one path, because there's no one type of puppetry, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But I like how you put like it into pieces, like the builder. Sometimes you have like the performer, and you have all of those jobs, and it depends of the choice for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you have your own definition of a puppet?
Yeah. So it was funny because, you know, when I saw that question, I was like, oh, you know, what should I say? I'm fairly liberal in my definition of a puppet. I also consider stop motion to be puppetry, just sort of on a different sense of time. But I guess simply what I think, and I'll read it just so I make sure that I get it. A puppet is an inanimate object brought to life through external means and imbued with a sense of agency by its manipulator. So that's my answer.
Whoa, yeah. That's so cool. I think I will do a dictionary at some point with all the definition of everyone, because everyone bring a little touch. It's so cool.
Yeah, well, and definitely like the definitions and like all of the dictionaries, Merriam-Webster is like awful. It's like, it's usually an animal or person that, you know, it's a cloth, you know, manipulated by the hand, and it's usually cloth with a wood head. And I was like, that is not a puppet.
Yeah, it's more than that.
It's one type of a puppet for sure, but, you know, absolutely, you know, there's the possibilities are so much more endless than that. So.
Yes, and that's why we need to bring the definition to the world. Maybe at some point we will change the dictionary.
Right? Yeah. Can we petition?
Yeah. So cool. And do you think our art is in an ascension or is getting less popular? You have an interesting viewpoint from the museum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it ebbs and flows, you know, and it's really depending on what work is currently in the zeitgeist. You know, there are certain shows that sort of rise to that more prevalent acknowledgement by the culture at large. And then, you know, and then there are times when there isn't something that's so prevalent. But puppetry is everywhere. Sometimes you just don't even realize it. And I think that puppetry will always sort of be a bit of a misfit in the theatrical world and in the larger world, but I don't think it will ever ascend or descend to the point where it's either no longer relevant or part of like the mainstream in the same sense as, how do I say it? But puppets are everywhere. They'll continue to be everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we promote it, so it will go and grow. And yeah, I like this answer.
Absolutely.
But the next one is kind of about the full potential. Do you feel like we reached the full potential, or we still have room for improvement?
Interesting. And I think there's always room for improvement, for sure. In everything that we do, there's room for improvement. And so I don't think it's necessarily about reaching that full potential that you cannot exceed. It's more about continuing to look at how you can develop the art form and promote the art form and continue to support it in ways that allow it to really thrive, and for artists to survive. I mean, not survive, to thrive as well, you know, and so I think that
we need to keep grow and because you have like technology who had like the streaming, I think it's part of your like also development as a center of puppetry art. You said at the beginning you go digital. It's kind of we make it grow also on this platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that it's while it can be challenging to move forms that are meant for a live performance audience to this digital platform, because it is so different in many ways, and also you don't always get that. I mean, you can't really get that same sense of like collective joy that you get when you're sitting in an audience watching something that's right there. And you know, but I think it's absolutely opened up opportunities. This digital forum has opened up opportunities to reach audiences that may have never have seen your work or our work, you know, and that's really exciting. The fact that we're able to reach global audiences with work that we've done in Atlanta, Georgia, and that can be really exciting. As you were saying, like with your podcast, like that there have been, you know, people from all over the world, and that's pretty fantastic, you know, to have those conversations and to feel part of that global community through connections with puppetry.
Yes, totally. So you have like some question going on the chat. So Eric say hi. So hi, Eric Bornstein. And we have Chad also, Chad William, who watched. And yes, the collective joy. But Aileen asked an interesting question. So I bring it into the screen. The question is for you, Kristin. So what would it be the most interesting virtual proposal project since like quarantine, like something you will feel it's kind of a good question. Something you interesting, or maybe you have saw some stuff and
you know, one that's a I mean, there's been so many interesting things. You know, one thing that I really loved was the Great Small Works out of New York did the Toy Theater Festival. And the medium actually worked incredibly well on Zoom. You know, it really, you know, that was something that, you know, and to be able to like connect, they were connecting to people's houses from all over the world, and creating this, you know, entire event that if they brought all of those people to New York and housed them and had them perform every night, the costs involved for that would have been so astronomical that project may not have actually, I mean, they've actually done live toy theater festivals in New York before, so it's not that it's unprecedented, but that was for me a really interesting example of, you know, this forum can be really good for bringing different people from all over the world into one performance without incurring that incredible cost. And with toy theater, because it's small and basically in a proscenium anyway, like it works really well for that format. So that was great. I've also, Bonnie Duncan is a really interesting artist out of Boston. She's been doing, playing a lot with trying to engage engage audiences by encouraging them not just to watch, but to play along. And she's, you know, doing different things with sort of the screen and how to engage with the screen instead of just a presentation. It's like, how do I get those on the other side of me to really be engaging with this screen in a very different way? And that's been cool. So yeah, I think that there's been some really interesting sort of experiments in this form that have been great.
Yeah. So Aileen say thanks. I think it's answering to her.
Okay.
Yeah. And what is your biggest purpose as a puppeteer or as a director, or however you want to voice the question?
Let me see. So I actually broke this one up for sort of my different roles that I've had, although they can probably all be, they're also applicable to each one. So, but as a puppeteer, I think I want to create and execute the most compelling story that I can. That's whenever I create or produce something, that is what I want to do. As a producer, I want as many people to see the work of our team as possible, and I want them to be inspired by what they see in our stages. And again, this as a producer, I want all of these things too. But as an audience member, I have a telltale sign, and I'm sure other people do as well, that I'm being moved by a work, and it's frisson. I think I don't know, I'm probably butchering it in French, but it's known as like aesthetic chills or musical chills, and it's like goosebumps or so the idea that
les frissons, les frissons. Oh yes,
frisson. Yeah, frisson. Thank you. See, I told you I was butchering it. You didn't even know.
Yeah, I was like, ding, ding, oh, and goosebump. Okay, frisson.
Yeah. So that idea of, that's when I know, like when I'm watching a work and I get those goosebumps, and I'm like, okay, now I am engaged now. This is something that that's really touching me in some way. And then my mind starts to work, and it's like, well, why is that? What are the things that are happening? And and also back in my performance studies days, I became obsessed with the idea of the liminal state, which is, gosh, I can't even remember the anthropologist now that thought it up, but for me, I sort of transformed it because he approached it in terms of like ritual. But I think for me, it was that idea that an experience that is performative in nature could take you into sort of an in-between state and in that during the performance, you're in that in-between state. And then at the end, you emerge a different person in a way. And for me, I think that's kind of the highest achievement of a work. And when you can sort of take where you are, one state of understanding, whether it's yourself or your world or the topic at hand, and through that performance, transform your audience or be transformed to another state of understanding or another state of being. So I mean, that rarely happens, but I think that's always a goal. It's like, how can I transform, and really make that impact where someone walks out being like, I think differently now, or I feel differently now.
Yeah, kind of the catharsis of the Greek, but with puppetry, it's so like, I think it's kind of something like I always said, it's a bit philosophical, poetical, like it's kind of, we step back or we go into the reality of the show or of this puppet, and we understand what it's living right there. So I think it's a good smart goal.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, and this was something that, that I think sometimes we take for granted. And when we were the week of March, whatever, when we had basically decided that we were going to close after the final weekend, and the following week we're going to be closed. And we had 2 shows left. And I was in the audience for one of those shows with my son, and it was Milo the Magnificent by Alex and Olmsted, who are just fantastic. And even though everyone was sort of already a little bit skittish about going into an audience, like they had just the most wonderful, responsive, incredible audience you could ask for. And I remember just sitting there and thinking, again, that collective joy, that collective experience with an audience was just something I cherish so much, and I was going to miss so much. And I keep going back to that like moment when I realized this is going to be the last time for a while when that will happen, and it was tough.
Yeah.
But so also that, that audience experience, that real sense of that's also something that's a higher purpose, bringing people together and having them experience something together and be moved or think about something differently, it's as a collective is I think one of the most valuable things about live performance.
Yes, I'm so glad that you bring it on the table. Right? We are kind of like, let's bring live stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's bring me to the next one with like, where do you see the puppetry art in 10 years?
Well,
It's kind of tough with those parameters.
yeah. Well, hopefully we will have long been past this point and we'll have been back performing. I think I hope that it continues to grow and be part of different theaters' toolboxes.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see more. Where do I see in 10 years? I mean, just
See more.
keep it, yeah, or to keep, for artists to keep creating, for this period to be I guess a period of percolation that will then hopefully create sort of a renaissance. Because I think once we do get back to performing and it's safe for audiences to convene, people are going to be so hungry for that, and I know I will be. It's like you really will want to come together. And I mean, we're already like risking our lives. Like, I mean, not me, but there are so many people that are already just like, and the U.S. is unfortunately at the forefront of people sort of disregarding sort of better scientific advice on this. But I think part of it is that it's just like it's so hard to not have that community and not to be around people, and it's really maddening. So I think hopefully this will be a point where it's like, okay, it's percolating, and then this will lead to sort of a renaissance. I mean, it'll take so much time and resources, and I honestly think there will be a lot of theaters that close during this period, but I hope that those that remain, and also those that grow after this period and come after this period, will reflect on this and continue to create and grow and experiment with the art form. And I think that there's, I mean, just in so many Zoom calls, it's like there's so many incredible artists out there that are doing great work. So I just hope that continues to grow.
Yes. We bring hope there.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And it's almost the conclusion, because it's the vision of the future, but also we go from the past also. If you want to conclude a puppet near you that you want to bring in front of the screen and show, like maybe something that we talked or the interview, or
so I've got two. So the first one that I have is sort of my has grown out of because my personal work. I mean, and I'm sure that the puppet builders at the center, they are incredible builders. So so talented, so wonderful. And they'll probably cringe at both of these examples that I'm showing you. But one was a puppet that I created for that's sort of since become my doppelganger of sorts, I guess. And it's a shadow puppet. It's a stop motion shadow puppet that I've used on my animation table back there. You can sort of see it. But and basically I have a camera mounted and then a flat surface. And so let's see, I will now pull this out. So This is Feeble Molly. There we go. I'm also not a monitor puppeteer, just so you know. So I have to get used to that. So she's just simply articulated, but has lots of adventures. And yeah. And the other puppet that I have is one that's incredibly poorly made. And it was one of my first puppets out of school that was for the Center for Puppetry Arts the Center's Experimental Puppetry Theater program. And this is a great program that artists can submit an idea in January, and then they'll get a small stipend to create a work that then is performed along with other short pieces in May. So it's a really great community program that brings a lot of puppeteers, but also it actually started with center puppeteers just wanting to sort of go wild. They were doing sort of the kids shows in the early morning, and they just were like, we want to create something, different and weird. And so it started, and Janie Geiser was one of the founders, and John Ludwig, and so that group sort of just started creating interesting work, and it grew into this program that now draws on dancers and visual artists and filmmakers, and every year is something different, and it's really fun. So one year I created a work, and the basic story of it was that a woman wanted to sell her soul for a pomegranate after seeing someone do this, and she's like, oh, that seems like the perfect thing to do. I want to do it. So, but then when she tries to do this, realizes that her soul is only worth a pear. And so at that moment, let's pull this down. Let me see if I can, let me move my notes out again. So here's my sexy pear. It's got a little skirt, and it came up from a table. So she sort of popped up, and the rods were down here, and she did some really rudimentary, dance moves. Anyway, so
that's so cool, because puppetry is also about figurative or abstraction, or how to metaphor some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So so that was and I think for me, it was, that moment of the pair coming up, I had, certain ideas that I wanted to get across in that story, but at the same time, it was just also silly and a little surreal and right up my alley in terms of not funny in the funny, haha sense, but just enough of what was that? That I just really, that moment, really elicited this wonderful reaction. Again, the audience, it's they just and again, that was a moment where I was like, oh, I love this. It's such a silly little thing could, really get just this incredible response from an audience.
Yeah.
I just did not expect this pair to pop out of a table and start dancing weirdly. So
yeah, some weird it could be appropriate in puppetry. That's so appreciative for the audience also. And go for it.
I just want to share one more thing, that this is not a puppet, but I want to just say that everyone should go out and get this Out of the Shadows book by Leslie Ash. It just came out. And why I say this is, so the other thing, puppetry and puppets, festivals have been such a huge part of my inspiration and my love, and why I got into producing in the first place. And that book is about the Henson festivals that happened in late 90s to 2000. And it's and I just, for me, that create, and I think the center with our presenting series, we try to do this as well, but there's something about that concentration of ideas and artists coming together and shows that are from different countries and different styles, and all coming together into this, great inspiring moment in time, that I I can't wait until we can have more festivals because that for me is a really important part of the experience as well. So sorry, I know I probably shouldn't have advertised, but I just had to.
It's perfect. It's perfect, Kristin. That's the spot. That's the place to advertise puppetry. We have Lorna who wants to maybe see more of your shadow puppet. Like maybe you can put in front of a paper. Maybe I don't know if you have a paper.
Let's see. Let me see if I can do this without. I might have to unplug. Let me see. Can I do unplug that and maybe come over here and unplug that. There we go. So
to conclude, to see the stuff.
Let's see. And so so I actually put out a couple of things that I've cut. That's more just a silhouette, not a puppet. So there's that figure. And
the mechanism is kind of like little.
And then you just sort of move it like that. Her neck moves a little bit so she can go up and go like, what was that? This is also because I do not only shadow puppet work but also like cut paper just in general. And this is a little cow that actually was designed by my friend Catherine Callahan, who's a brilliant artist. And it's based on a Coleman Barks translation of a Rumi poem about a white cow. And so we worked together, and she drew everything and cut it out and articulated it. And so we also do that. I've also done that kind of work, but so
cool.
I do have a website that has sort of my personal work, not the work that that has some of the videos up. So it's jarvissilhouettes.com, and let's see. But so if anyone is interested in seeing like how does that actually look as an animation, or
in real.
Then there's then you can check that out.
Maybe after the interview we will write it down below, people could link and click and to make sure we copy paste it.
Perfect. That's a great idea.
Yay! Amazing. That was so cool, Kristin. I'm so happy that we finally met online.
Know. Yeah, it's been too long.
But it's so interesting, and I really observed that you have a lot of vocabulary about what we do, and a lot of like deep research with school path, and also it's kind of really interesting to get this viewpoint in the Puppet podcast.
Absolutely. I love puppets, and I was a touring puppeteer, so I also had that cred, even though I don't puppeteer as much anymore. But I think that experience alone sort of gave me a deep appreciation of any touring puppeteer out there, because it's hard. It's really hard, but it's amazing too. But going from city to city, and if you are the one schlepping everything in and out, that's a challenge. So it's it's appreciated, because that's spreading the puppet love all over the world.
You understand all the reality of puppetry, and that's really enjoyable.
I try as much as possible. Learning all the time.
Thank you very much for all your work, and people will click maybe and see more and look at the website of the center also.
Absolutely. I'll put that on. I'll send that as well, so we can put that out, because we have lots of great programming, digital programming. If you can't come to the center, and check us out. We're doing like a Henson Trivia Night coming up, and we've had some like digital museum tours that have been available, that I think are still on our website, that you can sort of check out what this this museum looks like. So there's a lot of, we have a lot of digital stuff out there too, so you can get a peek at what's going on.
I will for sure. I will go myself and other. Let's have a look. Thank you so much.
Thank
Kristin.
you. It was such a pleasure. Thank you. And
yeah.
best of luck with everything.
yeah. Thank you. So I will say the last word. Stay there.
Absolutely.
And we talk after. Everyone, thank you. That was so wonderful. So stay tuned. We have many other podcasts who's coming for the summer. I don't know how will be the rhythm, but I think we will keep just going as we do. And we will bring some tips and Patreon stuff and workshop. And we connect also with a lot of builders. So if we will see some buildings happening. So yeah, I just bring again the workshop this weekend. So it's on Sunday. So stay connected to know more about that. Look at Patreon Puppet Podcast. Really simple. So yeah, have a wonderful evening and see you in the future with other puppets. See you. Bye. Learn how to get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Join our Patreon page now. Link in the description.